สวัสดีค่ะ The Asia Foundation, the non-profit and non-governmental organization, which is based in Thailand as well as in many other countries in Asia, recently held a national survey on what Thais think about Thai politics. Is it true that Thais are deeply divided along current lines? What do they think of their MPs as well as the media? What is the perception of Thai democracy in general? Dr. James Klein, former country representative of Asia Foundation in Thailand, explained the findings to me. Dr. James, the Asia Foundation conducted a survey of the Thai electorate last year in September and October. What was the purpose of doing so?
The purpose of the survey last year was, first of all, to compare the data with the survey we did in 2009. About half of the 100 questions were from the 2009 survey. So we wanted to see how the mood of the Thai people had changed over the past year, particularly in light of the events in April and May of 2010. And also the foundation was interested in that data to inform our own program. What types of things should we be supporting? And also we hoped that the broader community, politicians, academics, civil society, would learn as much from the data as we were learning.
Mm-hmm. What were the main issues that you focused on in the survey?
The main issues in 2010 that we focused on were the Thai perceptions of democracy. And in addition, this 2010 survey also focused on the issue of the political divide in Thailand. Many in the media, in academic circles, amongst politicians, are talking about the polarization of Thai politics between the colors, the reds and the yellows. And we wanted to use the survey to basically determine in a statistical way the degree to which Thai polarization actually occurred.
Mm-hmm. How did you conduct your survey, Dr. James?
We used a professional survey company, MI Advisory, and what we did was we developed the survey in-house amongst our staff, and then we provided the survey instrument to MI Advisory that then conducted the survey nationwide in 15,000 households. I should say 1,500 households. We did this in face-to-face surveys. So that enabled us to do a much larger survey. Normally the surveys that are done in Thailand by the academic institutions have very few questions, 10, 20 questions, because they're based on a telephone interview. The problem with telephone interviews in Thailand is that you cannot do telephone interviews using mobile phones because you cannot do a geographic stratification. You can only use landline telephones. But the majority of the population in Thailand does not have a landline phone. Everyone has a mobile phone. But I think something like 14% of Thai households have a landline telephone. Therefore, those surveys done over the telephone don't ask 80%, 85% of the population any questions. It's focused on 15%. So they're not as reliable as a face-to-face interview. So we wanted to do face-to-face interviews for reliability. You could basically survey 100% of the population. Secondly, because you're doing face-to-face interviews, you can have 50, 100, 150 questions because you're sitting down in their home and you're having a very long discussion and you can ask many questions. So you can get into more detail. A third thing is that by using the academic survey organizations, quite often, particularly if it's an academic rather than a survey academic, they have their own agendas. Whereas by using a survey firm like MI Advisory, they have no agenda. They simply provide you with the data. If I were selling hair shampoo or soap or laundry detergent, they would be giving me the same types of answers. They would answer the questions I want answered, or in this case, the Asia Foundation wanted answered. So that's the reason we use an independent survey company. that's more focused on business as opposed to politics or academics. MI also did our 2009 survey, and they also did our survey in the 3 southern border provinces. So they've become quite experienced in dealing with how we want our surveys done at the Asia Foundation. We surveyed the exact same provinces as that we did in 2009.
You said 1,500 households.
1,500 households.
Is
nationwide.
that all across Thailand?
That's right. It's done through a random sampling. And you randomly sample which provinces you're going to select. In those provinces, then you randomly select which districts and then which households you're going to go to.
So everything is random?
Everything is random. And if it is truly random, then your first 10 questions should reflect the national data, the national statistics. In other words, does it reflect gender balance? Does it reflect the urban-rural divide? Does it reflect income? Does it reflect age groups? So within a margin of 3%, if your random sample of 1,500 households gives you the same numbers as the national census data, then you can be fairly certain that your questions are being a representative sample of the whole nation. And some households were missed. So you would go to a household on the random sample, and if you were, anyone in the family was a politician or a senior civil servant, then that household was removed and you went to the next household. Because we didn't want this to represent what politicians or what senior bureaucrats think, but what does the average household think? So one of the first questions is any member of your family an MP, a senator, a provincial administrator, a town councillor, a senior bureaucrat, or do they work for a polling firm, in fact? And if they said yes, then you would go to the next house on the random sample.
You want respondents not related to politics at all?
Right.
At all. You just want the average citizens?
Average citizen.
Mm-hmm. So 1,500 or 1,500 households, those are considered average households all across the nation.
Right.
What are some of the questions like?
The first types of questions were the mood. What is the direction of the country? A slight increase in optimism over 2009, just barely. About, I think, 52% of the population says the country's going in the right direction, as opposed to a negative number in 2009. We asked people, compared to 2 years ago, how was your family economically? When we asked that in 2009, basically 2/3 of the population of the households were saying that economically they were worse off or things had not changed. And that's reversed in 2010, in that over half of the households say their economic situation is better or hasn't changed. And that's an important question, because then I think the next one is the government doing a good job? And the government received a fairly high rating in that, yes, they're doing a good job. And I think that's kind of linked to the economic stability. What's the country's biggest problem? In 2009, the majority of the population said it's the economy. 2010, that went down from nearly 2/3 to only 24%. And the big issue was political conflict. But then, of course, we asked the question, in your locality, what's the biggest problem? And then they're still saying, about 37% are still saying it's the economy, followed by drugs. But political conflict is way down in the bottom, about 2%. So at the local level, people don't see political conflict as an issue. They see that as a national political issue.
How long or how much time did you spend interviewing each person?
I can't actually answer that question, as long as it takes to ask 109 questions. Because
How many questions?
109.
109.
Yeah. so I think it varies from household to household.
Oh, wow. 109 questions. And then you accumulate.
Yeah.
All the
MI
questions.
advisory
Yeah.
accumulates all of that, inputs it into the computer, crunches it through some system, and gives us back the numbers.